Have you ever met someone like this? The kind of person who's full of brilliant ideas, who dreams big, whose eyes shine with the certainty that they were born for something incredible. They speak with passion about grand projects, impossible possibilities, a future so vivid you can almost believe it with them. But somehow, none of it ever happens. Nothing gets finished. Nothing is real. There's always an excuse. It wasn't the right time. The right people didn't show up. The world just isn't ready to understand someone like me. Maybe this person is someone close to you, a childhood friend, a younger brother, your partner, maybe even your father. Someone who, despite their age, seems frozen in time. An adult who still acts like a boy. Emotionally unstable, afraid of commitments, always chasing freedom, but running from responsibility. And maybe, if you're honest, there's still a part of you that hopes they'll change. Carl Jung had a name for this. He called it the pure eternus, the eternal boy. It's not just immaturity, it's an archetype. A psychic pattern of the man who refuses to grow up, who lives eternally in a kind of limbo. Preparing for life, but never really starting. This person is charming in the beginning, full of energy, creativity, spontaneity. They light up a room. But behind that light, there's a shadow. A deep incapacity to deal with reality. The poor expects life to shape itself to his desires. He imagines others will fix the problems he refuses to face. He holds out for the perfect woman, the perfect job, the perfect life. And when reality inevitably fails to match his fantasy, he runs. He breaks things off. He disappears. He gives up and circles back to new dreams that will never come true. He sees himself as too unique, too special to settle for the mediocrity of everyday life. But beneath it all, he's terrified. Terrified of failing, of being disappointed, of growing up. If you've ever tried to help someone like this, you know how exhausting it is. You get tired of giving advice that goes unheard. Tired of offering support that's wasted. Tired of trying to drag someone forward when deep down they don't want to move. And here's the cruelest part, they make you feel guilty. As if you're the problem for asking too much. For wanting them to mature. For not being content with living in an endless state of almost. But here's the truth. No one wants to admit this man, the one you know, is trapped. Trapped in a fantasy of freedom that's really just a prison of fear and immaturity. If he doesn't wake up, he will grow old without ever having truly lived. This isn't meant as an attack. It's a mirror. And if you've watched this far, it's because something in you recognizes this pattern. Maybe in someone you love. Maybe in yourself. The journey of the puer eternus doesn't have to end in stagnation. But change only comes when the truth is faced head-on. The eternal boy isn't just a type of personality. It's a deep-rooted archetype, a force moving beneath the surface of thousands of men's lives. Often it gets confused with charisma, spontaneity, the free spirit. But behind this playful mask, there's something much heavier, a near-instinctive refusal to grow up. Carl Jung noticed this pattern again and again in his patients, in myths and history. The pure is the one who never truly leaves childhood behind, who clings to the psychological womb of the mother where everything is safe, protected, cared for. He lives in the shadow of some glorious future that never actually arrives. He's the eternal son of the gods, the chosen one, the special one. But in practice, he never takes ownership of his life. You've probably seen this before. Men who hop from job to job, always looking for something more meaningful. Who dive into projects with passion, but abandon them at the first obstacle. Who fall in love intensely, but vanish the moment a relationship asks for maturity. Who speak endlessly of spirituality, self-knowledge, freedom, but can't pay a bill on time or hold a commitment longer than a few months. And it's not a lack of intelligence or talent. Far from it. The pure is often brilliant, sensitive, overflowing with potential. He's deeply connected to creativity, imagination, inspiration. But because of that, he prefers to live in the clouds. He wants to fly without building wings. He wants love without commitment, success without effort. He craves the rewards of adulthood, but refuses to pay the price of maturity. And when the world inevitably denies him these things, he revolts, blames the system, blames his parents, blames life itself, never himself. Jung said the puer aeternus suffers from a disconnection with time. He's always living in the not yet, always waiting for the right idea, the right woman, the right phase of life. He lives in the future, never in the present. And because of this, he never truly lives. He merely survives, feeding himself on dreams that gradually become burdens. But there's another side to this story. Because despite his immaturity, the puer carries a force that shouldn't be ignored. He is the source of inner youth creative imagination, the ability to reinvent life. The problem isn't the boy inside the man. The problem is when the boy takes control of the man's existence. This is what we need to understand when the shine of the puer begins to fade and his shadow starts to take over. There's something magnetic about the man dominated by this archetype. He's light, spontaneous. He speaks like a poet, dreams like a visionary, lives as if outside of time. He rejects rules, hates labels, refuses to cling to anything. For many, this is fascinating. He seems free. And who doesn't long for freedom in a world suffocated by obligations, commitments, routine? But this is the trap. That freedom is an illusion, a carefully crafted disguise hiding his deepest fear reality. The pure isn't free. He's a fugitive, running from pain, from failure, from rejection, from frustration, from the slow and inevitable passage of time, running from the weight of responsibility over his own life. Every choice he avoids, every decision he postpones, every responsibility he dodges tightens the prison he mistakes for autonomy. You've seen this up close. He says he doesn't want a conventional job because he's destined for something greater. But really, he's terrified of routine, of hierarchy, of being tied down. He says relationships are prisons, that no one should be bound to anyone else. But in truth, he's afraid of surrendering, afraid of being truly seen, afraid of being accountable to someone other than himself. He claims to despise rules, but deep down he simply doesn't know how to handle limits. This freedom he advertises to the world is in fact a refusal to face the harshness of life. He wants to stay forever light, untouched, unsullied. To do that, he must remain in constant motion like a balloon drifting endlessly on the wind. But time doesn't wait. And reality sooner or later demands its price. Jung described the puer aeternus as someone floating eternally between heaven and earth, never willing to descend, never willing to root himself, never willing to deal with the concrete, the real. But without roots, nothing grows. Without effort, nothing flourishes. Without pain, there's no transformation. True freedom isn't the absence of limits. It's the capacity to consciously choose what deserves your commitment. But the pure doesn't choose. He escapes. And in escaping, he sabotages not just his own life, but the lives of those who love him. Over time, this pattern reveals itself in small, almost invisible ways. He forgets important dates, breaks, promises, misses deadlines, mishandles money, changes his mind without warning. But it's all dressed up in a poetic narrative. I'm not ready. I don't want to force it. I just need time to figure things out. The truth underneath is far less romantic. He's scared. Scared of growing up. Scared of failure. Scared of being judged. Scared of being ordinary. So without realizing it, He sabotages anything that asks him to step into maturity. This self-sabotage doesn't only damage him, it ripples out to everyone who tries to care for him. Romantic partners suffer the most. They live in the painful tension of loving a man who seems brilliant in essence, but absent in reality. He says he loves them, but disappears when they need him. He speaks of building a future, but never takes the first step to create it. Family members watch in frustration as he squanders his potential, his intelligence, his creativity, his opportunities. Friends grow weary of offering advice and support to someone who stays stuck in a loop of almost. And underneath it all is this suffocating truth: he seems incapable of moving forward. Trapped in an endless adolescence he doesn't even recognize as a prison. Like all archetypes, the puer's shadow feeds on the unconscious. He doesn't realize how much he's sabotaging himself. Worse, he believes others are to blame. The world is too rigid, too boring, too controlling. People who've matured, he sees them as traitors to freedom, sellouts to routine. So he isolates himself, further convinced he's preserving his true essence. But really, he's become a slave to fear. Jung said we do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. The shadow of the puer cannot be denied. It must be faced. The problem isn't that the boy lives within the man. The problem is when the boy becomes the tyrant, sabotaging any chance at a full and meaningful life. And this sabotage runs deeper than most people realize. Because the puer is rarely alone in this struggle. Behind him, there's often a silent presence feeding his behavior, locking him deeper into this prison. Jung identified this as the figure of the symbolic mother. This isn't always a literal mother, though sometimes it is. It can also be a partner, a grandmother, a friend, a feminine figure who provides comfort, protection, nurturing, but who, knowingly or not, also keeps him from confronting reality. When this archetypal mother figure becomes too dominant, she shifts into what Jung called the devouring mother. Instead of giving life, she traps it. This might look like an overprotective parent who shields her son from hardship, solves his problems for him, never lets him fail. Or it might take the form of a partner who mothers, instead of loves, who supports without question, who asks for nothing in return, but loyalty to the comfort she provides. In these relationships, the puer doesn't seek a partner, he seeks a substitute mother, someone who understands him without expecting growth, who comforts him without challenge, who supports him without boundaries. It's a dynamic that feels safe, but slowly erodes both people involved. As long as someone is willing to care for him, he doesn't have to face the demands of adulthood. He doesn't need to make decisions. He doesn't need to take risks. He doesn't need to grow. He remains suspended in a state of perpetual childhood, waiting for the women around him to shield him from the very life he refuses to step into. But this isn't just his prison. The symbolic mother gets trapped too. She believes she's helping, that her love is enough. But in reality, she's feeding a cycle of psychic dependency that drains them both. Jung warned of this tragedy when the mother refuses to let the child be born psychologically. The body ages, but the psyche stays locked in infancy, clinging to comfort instead of seeking grounding in the real world. This pattern becomes even more toxic in romantic relationships. The puer falls in love quickly, intensely. He idealizes his partner, puts her on a pedestal, expects her to fix all the emptiness he refuses to face within himself. But the moment the relationship demands depth, commitment, responsibility, he withdraws. He distances himself, he sabotages, sometimes cruelly. Or he blames her because deep down, he never wanted a partner. He wanted a mother wrapped in the disguise of a lover. Breaking this dynamic is painful. It requires a severing, a psychic separation from the comfort that has become a chain. It requires cutting the cord and learning to stand alone. This is the beginning of what Jung called individuation, the true birth of the self. Growing up hurts, but not growing up hurts far more. And this is the hard truth. There comes a point when the disguise begins to fall apart. Unfulfilled dreams grow heavier with time. Failed relationships leave deeper scars. Life, once full of endless possibilities, starts to close in. And the man still trapped in the grips of the poor eternus is forced to confront himself. To ask, how much longer can I live as if I have all the time in the world? This is the breaking point. The moment when the pain of staying the same outweighs the fear of change. But make no mistake, this isn't a gentle process. Jung spoke plainly about the path ahead. Individuation, and the process of becoming fully yourself, is a kind of psychic birth. And like all births, it's marked by pain, by struggle, by the death of something old to make way for something new. The first step is facing the collapse of fantasy. To accept that life won't wait for you to be ready. There is no perfect moment. No one is coming to rescue you. The real world isn't your enemy. It's the only place where something real can finally happen. Growing up isn't a betrayal of your true self. It's the foundation for discovering it. But to do this, something must be mourned. The idealized boy must be let go. The fantasy life must be released. The promises that were never kept must be buried. And perhaps hardest of all, the symbolic mother must be left behind. Killing the boy within doesn't mean suffocating your creativity or silencing your dreams. It means no longer hiding behind them, no longer using them as an excuse to avoid life. The boy can remain, but he no longer gets to drive. Maturity requires structure, discipline, consistency. It means saying no when it's easier to say yes, showing up when you want to run, working with focus even when inspiration fades, staying in relationships even after the idealization fades, choosing the difficult path of building something real over the easy thrill of chasing what's new. And here's the paradox. When the pure is integrated into the man, he doesn't disappear. He transforms. He becomes the source of creativity, intuition, vision. But now his gifts are channeled through a mature psyche, one grounded enough to act on them, build with them, shape the world with them. This is what rebirth looks like. When the eternal boy stops fleeing from reality and starts creating within it. But this isn't easy, and it won't happen by accident. Many men who reach this point feel lost, drained, unsure of where to even begin. They know change is necessary. They know the time of childhood is over, but they don't yet know how to take control of their lives. This is the moment where the real work begins. Because growing up is not a feeling, it's a decision. You won't wake up one morning suddenly ready to face the world. You have to choose it consciously every day. You have to decide to carry the weight of responsibility, even when you're tired, even when you're scared, even when part of you still longs for the safety of childhood. Carl Jung warned that those who refuse to confront their inner demons will meet them again and again in the world outside. The poor eternus is one of those demons. It wears many disguises: freedom, authenticity, misunderstood genius. But beneath all of them, it slowly erodes your roots and leaves you unable to build anything solid, anything lasting. It doesn't vanish on its own. You have to face it, acknowledge it, integrate it, and above all, decide to rise above it. Maturity isn't about killing the child within you. It's about becoming the adult who can guide that child with wisdom. It's about learning that responsibility is not a prison, but a path to genuine strength. That true freedom isn't about doing whatever you want, whenever you want. It's about having the inner discipline to choose what matters even when it's hard. If you've recognized yourself in this story, know this: there is no shame in waking up late. What matters is that you wake up at all. Life doesn't care when you start. It only cares that you do. The bridge from childhood to adulthood is always waiting. But no one can walk it for you. There comes a moment when every man must ask himself, will I keep running, or will I finally face what I've been avoiding? Will I keep living in potential, or will I start living in reality? These aren't philosophical questions. They are practical ones. They show up in how you work, how you love, how you treat your time, how you take care of yourself and others. And the answers aren't found in books or theories or endless introspection. They're found in action, in doing the things you've avoided, in standing firm when everything in you wants to run, in building slowly, patiently, even when progress feels invisible. Maturity is built moment by moment, in the small, unglamorous choices that over time create something stable, something worthy of pride. And ironically, it's only through this hard-earned adulthood that you reclaim the best parts of the boy within you, his wonder, his curiosity, his joy. But now those gifts are balanced by something stronger: wisdom, resilience, depth. The boy dreamed of flying. The man builds the wings. The boy wanted freedom. The man earns it. Look around you. Every fulfilled life you admire was not built on fleeting passion or endless potential. It was built on sacrifice, on discipline, on choices made and honored. Not because they were easy, but because they were necessary. You don't need to abandon your dreams. You need to learn how to carry them with both feet on the ground, to shape them into something real through effort, patience, and maturity. This is the difference between fantasy and fulfillment, between living for someday and living for today. The world does not owe you understanding, nor will it wait for you to be ready. The clock keeps ticking. The opportunities you waste today may not come again. This isn't meant to scare you, it's meant to wake you up. Time is your most precious currency, and every day you spend hiding from responsibility is a day you could have been building something meaningful. There's no shortcut through this. No hack, no one-size-fits-all solution. You have to make the choice yourself to step out of the fantasy and into the reality of your own life. And it starts with small things. Keeping your word. Showing up on time. Following through. Taking care of your body. Managing your money. These aren't mundane tasks. They're the foundation of a life you can be proud of. Stop waiting for permission to begin. Stop looking for signs. Stop blaming the world for not bending to your dreams. The truth is, the world owes you nothing, but it will give you everything if you're willing to meet it halfway with work, with courage, with maturity. The process isn't linear. You'll stumble. You'll doubt yourself. You'll want to quit. That's normal. Growth is messy, but it's also worth it. Because on the other side of this struggle is not just a man who survives, it's a man who creates, who builds, who loves with depth, who stands tall in his own life. You don't become this man by accident. You become him by choice, by facing your fears, by accepting that you won't always feel ready, but acting anyway, by learning to hold yourself accountable even when no one is watching. In the end, this isn't just about you. The people who love you, the partners, the friends, the children you may one day have, they deserve the best version of you. Not the boy trapped in dreams, but the man who turned those dreams into reality. So ask yourself now, honestly, how long will you keep running? How long will you let fear dictate your life? How long will you wait to become who you were meant to be? The time for fantasy is over. The time for action is now. The choice is yours. And if you've made it this far, something inside you already knows what needs to be done. Start. even if it's small, even if it's imperfect. Start today, because the only person who can save you is you, and in that truth lies all the power you will ever need.